There is a dark and delicious side to being one big old grand disappointment. There is. You know what I've realized? If you struggle with people pleasing and worry about disappointing the people close to you or strangers on the internet, worry about cancellation and whatnot, but you see how that's getting in your way of being at peace, at speaking your mind. Ooh, this episode's gonna be a good one for you. So let me tell you what happened. Because your boy has been out here in these internet streets. Not outside per se, but I've been out here. And the other week, in a span of 24 hours, I lost hundreds of followers. And at the time you're seeing this video, lost thousands of followers because I shared incisive, nuanced takes on current events connected to racism in America and Charlie Kirk's death. I said a very sensible thing, which is no one around these parts is big on murder or violence. Really not. Really? I'm not interested in that. I'm not. I just want to drink my green tea and mind my business, frankly. But I noticed that there were a whole bunch of people who had all these thoughts and prayers to dole out toward a conservative man who's murdered. And these people normally stay quiet and silent when all other matters of violence occur. And I listed those matters of violence from racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ranicide. Yeah, racism shortens people's lives. And also, poverty shortens people's lives. And those are all things that we could do something about if we wanted to change them. That is not a radical take. That is a common sense take. And it offended a lot of people who don't do critical thinking, who don't understand nuance. And then I went on into explaining the history behind that take as well, because anti-intellectualism is on the rise. And what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that people don't read books. People don't understand logic. Yeah. It's not good for us, y'all. It's not. But it's all right. Why do I share all that? So I'm sitting here right now and processing the fact that there is a dark and delicious side to being one big old grand disappointment. There is. You know what I've realized is there are a number of people who are always mincing words, always doing the thing that they think will make their parents happy or their social circle happy. And obviously, we all have to act to some degree to get along in this world and make money. We can't be our full authentic selves most of the times. The only people who get to do that are babies and celebrities who get paid to fully be themselves. The rest of us have to more or less assume form and play a character. So we get that. But there comes a point where just playing the part is corrupting your peace. There comes a point where wearing that mask and pretending you don't have thoughts and withholding your truth is corrupting your peace. There comes a point, right, where it's either I stay in secrecy or I choose integrity. And the delicious side of being a disappointment in service of standing in your integrity is that, one, you have peace at night because you stood on business. Yeah. Okay. Another is that you can look back in a week or a month or a decade and be like, wow, okay, I stood for something. I have courage. That's nice. Better than a lot of people who are spineless and silent when they don't need to be and wouldn't lose much. Okay. The other thing is it builds a reputation with yourself as a sort of individual who stands on iconic business. And individuals who stand on iconic business are the sorts of individuals who move culture forward. Am I saying everybody needs to be a social media activist here? A slacktivist? No, that's not really what I do here. If you're new here, this is the Percy Ponders podcast and YouTube channel. And what is that, Travis? It's a space for sensitive and thoughtful e-cousins where we figure out life and love together to expand our emotional capacity. That's important stuff. It's important stuff. But even if you don't feel called to speak out about things on the social frontier, even if you don't feel called to be the poster child of contrarian thought, still begs the question, what could it add to your life? What could it add to your peace to become the sort of person who's bold enough to be a disappointment? Because you're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. And if you live for the praise, you are going to die by the boo. Let me tell you, the quickness with which people will go from loving you to hating you will show you just how shallow and surface most connections run. There are only but a handful of people in almost all of our lives whose opinions should really matter, because only but a handful of people are really here for you. Here for you. Rest of the people, they like you because they think you're both against the same enemy, right? You both hate the New York Jets and love the whatevers. And so they're like, yeah, same team. But that kinship is really only rooted in rivalry. In the absence of that rivalry, if you took away the sport, you wouldn't have much in common with them, right? They wouldn't really be in your corner because it was really just you versus that thing you were against, right? And so once you realize how surface level most connections go, it frees you up from needing to be everyone's cup of tea, right? And it was also when I went through a number of seasons in my life where my back was against the wall, where I was not succeeding according to conventional terms, where I had lost my job, where they laid people off at my company, where I had recently moved to New York City and had to find housing, and I was heartbroken because a relationship ended, right? So I'm sitting on joblessness, housing insecurity, and heartbreak all at once. And I realized how few people checked in on me and supported me in that chapter where I had very little to offer because I was just going through it. And I'm typically the strong one, the one who takes initiative, the dot connector. And so when I didn't have the capacity to do that, it showed me who all really gave a hoot and toot a doot to toot to toot about me when I didn't have as much to offer, didn't have as much emotional capacity to say, hey, let's hang out. Hey, how are you doing? So if you haven't been through one of those chapters that really clarified who your kitchen cabinet of people are, well, I pray you go through one of those, because it so incredibly frees you up to be a grand old disappointment. And you know what else is cool about being a disappointment in service of standing on business and values? Sometimes you have to do it to the ones closest to you as well. That you might need to be a disappointment to your family if they have dreams for your career that so do not fit with what you were put on this planet to do. Let me tell you, I thought for the longest time I needed to be a medical doctor or a lawyer or an engineer to have a career that was of esteem and respect to my family. I'm a descendant of slaves and sharecroppers, and I have this great opportunity to go to a fancy college and have all these opportunities that my ancestors weren't afforded naturally, right? I should want to do something conventionally prestigious. I interned on Wall Street one summer in college. I interned in management consulting. I graduated college with job offers lined up in consulting and finance at prestigious firms. And guess what I did? I turned down those job offers and went to work in tech. And from there, it was only downhill. Kidding. It was kind of for a while. Went through a season where I was window shopping at Chipotle Cousins. We'll talk about that another time. Where chips, queso, guac, they were all a pipe dream. I just kind of go there and look at, wow, that all looks good. And then I get the free water cup. That was my brokey dokey okie season in between jobs. Yeah, but I was willing to be a disappointment because I was like, oh, I'll be damned if you find me working a job just to impress my peers and family. That is so not my career. And so I went on a totally different path and had many careers in tech and a career in media where I was building brands for people and running online learning programs. And all the while I was creating content and building community and started to take on freelance clients and coaching clients. And then I stumbled into transformational coaching, supporting leaders through big life transitions and making content. So yeah, be a disappointment. Risk being a disappointment. You never know where it will lead. It's the coolest thing. And frankly, the scariest thing in these conformist times. I know what you're thinking, Travis. Everyone doesn't have the latitude and the safety net to take big or little risks. You know, we're living in this time where, frankly, different employers have lists of people who speak out about different issues. Someone created a list actually to track people who spoke positively around Charlie Kirk's Red Rum. They created a list to track people who spoke negatively about Charlie Kirk's murder because, again, free speech is only free if you're saying things that advance the narrative of the racist and the white supremacist. Yeah, then speech is free. Otherwise, we don't want your free speech. We don't want your nuanced takes on anything unless they support our agenda. It's also why Donald Duck went to such lengths to have certain artifacts of slavery in pictures, such as this, removed. Because, again, it doesn't suit the narrative they're trying to advance. So that's neither here, neither there, but these are the times we're living. These are the wily, anti-intellectual times we're living in. I understand, again, that everyone doesn't have the latitude and luxury of speaking the truth. I understand that. But still, there are different ways you can risk being a disappointment to stand on business. Because I also think about the health tax of keeping it all in and pretending you're fine when you aren't. Pretending that things don't ruffle your feathers when they do, right? Where there's research on the fact that our bodies do what's called somaticizing emotions that we don't express. I've talked about this on other podcasts. Basically, if you're a Mr. Mrs. I'm fine, I'm good, and you're neither fine nor good, and you have all this anger and stress and grief and rage and big feelings mounting on the inside that you keep suppressing down, yeah, those don't go away. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. And so what happens is those unaddressed and unexpressed emotions express themselves as autoimmune disease, as all sorts of symptoms and flare-ups in your body and inflammation. Yeah. There's research on it. It's really interesting. Again, it's important to risk being a disappointment. You know, the other reason it's important to risk being a disappointment is that if you're a people pleaser, people pleasing is really just lying. People pleasing is really just lying. And most of us learned it as self-protection. So no judgment if you're a recovering people pleaser. But people pleasing is really just lying, because what are you doing when you string that person along in dating who you have no plan of getting to know better? But you're like, oh, yeah, this date was great. Let's meet up again. You have no plan to meet up with them, right? Let's just call it what it is. People pleasing is lying when you keep agreeing to help people and overgive and overextend yourself out of obligation when you don't want to. And you don't have to, but you keep saying yes because you want to make everyone happy. Dare to be a disappointment and watch the world open up to you. Oh my gosh. There's some of us who learned that the only way to be loved is to be this sacrificial martyr of an agreeable little doormat. And the saying about how nice guys and gals finish last, there's truth to that. There's truth to that, because that sort of person doesn't have boundaries. That sort of person doesn't voice what they need. And that sort of person is afraid of being a disappointment. And here's the thing. When you are the right kind of disappointment, oh, you can be the right kind of satisfaction to certain people. And you can make yourself proud. That's important. Starting to like yourself and whatnot. You know, another thing this whole debacle around losing followers, but gaining so much more than I lost taught me is that you'll only achieve to the level that your nervous system believes it is safe for you to be seen, to be visible, and to achieve. What do I mean by that? So one of the clearest indicators of how ready your nervous system is for success and for the thing you want is how comfortable are you being disliked? How comfortable are you being polarizing? How comfortable are you being misunderstood? And for the longest time, what kept me at a very low, hidden, disappointed level in my career was my fear of being polarizing, my fear of being disliked, and my fear of saying things that rubbed some people the wrong way because I was misunderstood. And it's not like I'm out here trying to stir the pot and conjure shit. just cuz. I've never been that person who stirs the pot. People who just troll on the internet and say things that they barely believe for clicks and clout are lazy and lack the true skill it takes to be interesting without trolling. I've just been the sort of person who wants to give nuance. But what I realized in this anti-intellectual era, this era where people have totally different algorithms, is that you have a 0% chance at saying things in a way that will make sense to everyone. But the cool thing is that universal consensus has never been required to make things better for some people, right? The whole country wasn't on board with the fact that Martin Luther King had a dream that was pretty simple. It was like, hey, probably shouldn't be all segregated and stuff. Probably shouldn't be treating black and brown people like second citizens in a country they built. Yeah, that's pretty logical. The whole country wasn't on board with that. Could you have thought, the whole country wasn't on board with the fact that, maybe women should have their own bank accounts, right? They shouldn't be contractually bound to their husbands because they have no rights of their own. Yeah, the whole country wasn't on board with that. The whole country is almost never on board with the most important sorts of change that move us forward. The people in your personal life likely will never be on board with the most important sorts of change that feel right to you. The people in your personal life will likely never be on board with all the ways that you feel called to grow and expand and stretch your wings. I've had a number of clients who grew up Christian, religious, and they carry an ungodly, that's a double entendre, amount of shame. Because what does a Christian upbringing say? It says, you do all these things out of obligation. You internalize a narrative of shame and guilt, that you are unworthy. So a lot of people with that sort of upbringing carry a high level of guilt and shame. And it is very hard for them, again, to risk not being everyone's cup of tea. All this to say, risk being a disappointment. It's delicious. And you're saying, okay, Travis, how is it really delicious? Because you lost all those followers. Well, I also gained a bunch. And it's not even about that at the end of the day, because I don't want anyone around these parts who's not interested in what I really stand for, which is harm reduction, which is universal care and love for all people, especially those on the margins of society. I don't want anyone interested in my work because they think I'm some milquetoasty, indifferent self-help bro who talks about maxing out your life and in a very selfish way. Because most of the self-help industry is very self-centered and does not consider what's happening in the world, does not consider the experiences of marginalized communities. I'm not interested in that. So the work we get to do here around these parts is groundbreaking in that way. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. And so, one, I have so much peace knowing, again, I got rid of those people who weren't on the bus for the right reasons. That's good. Thank you. Thank you for showing yourself the door. And again, a whole bunch of other people join the party who are on the bus for the right reasons. Thumbs up to that. We love that. Welcome. And also, here's the thing. Even when it's like losing business opportunities or losing brand deals over having principles, right? That's not the end of the world either, because I work with interesting leaders and clients and brands that do like what I do. And so what a lot of people, again, don't realize is how safe and successful you can be, even when you're not everyone's cup of tea. And let me tell you, back to the whole nervous system piece. You can get that at an intellectual level, that you don't need to be everyone's cup of tea to be safe. But how do you embody that at a heart level, a nervous system level? So for me, I had moments the other week where my lizard brain, my amygdala, felt hurt, felt a little rejected. It's like, wow, I thought these people, certain people who joined the internet squad of cousins years ago, I thought they'd be along for the journey for a while. And I realized, okay, they unfollowed. That's all right. And I felt a bit of rejection in that moment. I had to honor that feeling. But it's so important to repattern your nervous system, as I mentioned, because you will only excel to the degree that your nervous system believes it is safe for you to succeed and excel. And so I came back to my breath, focused on my exhales. I did some humming. Because humming stimulates the vagus nerves and tells your body you are safe. There is no danger. And even if there is, being grounded and present and here and now makes you way more equipped to think sensibly about how to navigate this. Tells your prefrontal cortex, okay, we're actually good to think critically. Let's get our way through this. And I set some pretty stringent boundaries for myself around not being so obsessive with checking numbers. I don't check my numbers that much online as it is because it's frankly none of my business. I know what I need to do each week to move things forward and connect with people and show up from a place of service, but I let the rest take care of itself. And it's so funny when people say, oh, you get caught up in mean comments and people can be so mean on the internet. The thing is, though, not 1 ounce of my self-worth depends on you. That's one for the bank. But another one for the bank is you can't make me feel inferior without my consent. You can't. So if you say something that I know is untrue, if you come at me, if you come for me with some wow, cockamamie, rude comment, but I know that's untrue and I don't receive that as truth, I'm unmoved. I'm unmoved. I've had red pillars come in the comments and call me all sorts of names. Unmoved. Because I know that's not true. And so I can laugh about it. And so this is all part of the work of repatterning your nervous system to feel a sense of safety around the thing that feels unsafe, but is safe. Because your brain was just wired to keep you safe, not successful, not expanded. Right? It was wired to keep you safe from lions and tigers and bears, and it perceives the opinions of others, rejection from the tribe, as an ultimate death. It's not an ultimate death. You know what I'm saying? What's your experience with this, by the way? Put it down in the comments. I have other videos on rewiring your nervous system. I have other podcasts on a host of topics I covered here in this episode. If you are a heart-centered visionary, it's a season of expansion in your work or relationships, resources down below about the coaching experience to help you get out of your own way and institute better systems to support you at that next level and sustain you at that next level. Again, you cousins, we'll talk soon. Take it easy on yourself out there. We are living in some interesting, I don't want to say unprecedented times because at this point they're precedented because they're really just the times. But dare to be a disappointment. Dare to be a disappointment and see how good it gets.